Hi, welcome. Welcome to the Knurlmade YouTube channel. My name is Nunu. I'm a knitter, spinner, maker, sewist, quilter, and I like to make things in solitary for the most part. So I've been dying to talk someone's ear off about my projects and my knitting. And if you're clicking on this video based on the title, I have some good idea that you might actually enjoy this. So to get to know me better, I thought why not start with all the things I made in 2024, the past year. I thought this could give you a good idea of some of the things I like, what kind of yarn I use, pattern designers, and so on. Here I have gathered all of the stuff I knit in 2024. I do keep a good track of my projects on Ravelry, so based on my note here, it says I've knitted 14 projects and an estimated amount of 10,000 meters of yarn, which is an underestimation because I don't keep track of everything. But yeah, I do knit a lot. So let's get going, shall we? I've piled them up here, nice and neat. So I don't think we're gonna go in a chronological order, but rather based on types of knits. Okay, so the first thing I can show you is Levitate Wrap by my favorite things knitwear. You've probably seen this before. It's a wrap that's cropped and knit in a rather large gauge. Maybe I can try it on for you so you can see later. I knit this in Honor och Nutiden yarn in the shade Vanessa, held together with Drops Alpaca. It's kind of hard to show this because of the shape and how it's supposed to sit in the body. But here's the yarn I used. I was considering pairing it with different things. I thought holding it double could be nice, but I don't have enough of the yarn. So if you're unfamiliar, this spinner, they don't release the yarn in a constant manner, or they don't have a select colors that's available whenever they want to buy. They usually have a monthly update and a one-of-a-kind colorway, which is made by blending differently dyed fibers together. So the best bet is to have enough yarn when you buy it in the first place, because when you run out, it's really hard to get more of the same color. So I was afraid I was gonna run out, so I opted out of that. And then I could also hold it double with silk mohair, which is what a lot of people do. But I was feeling a little tired of silk mohair by that point because I've knitted a few the year before. So that's why I opted for alpaca. And I did not regret this choice because I like the resulting marling that's happening, and the sweater is pretty warm. And so warm, in fact, that one time I'm pretty sure I overheated in my office while wearing it. I got like a sudden rush of headache and I was super warm. I had to roll up my sleeve and take off some layer underneath so that I feel comfortable again. In terms of modification, I didn't modify at all. I think I followed the pattern exactly as is. And the only thing I skipped is that you're supposed to, maybe I can double it here. You're supposed to put on a clasp on the hidden edge. You're supposed to put a clasp here so that when you overlap the two fronts, that it stays nice and put. And then you tie it on the other end. But so you can tie it on the other hand. But I find that this might look silly now, sorry, I'll do a proper try on later. But I find that the yarn is sticky enough that I don't have to do that, and I don't really have any issues with it not being in place. So like this, love this, wear it a lot, and I might knit a different version in like a more drapey yarn and see how that looks like, because this is it's quite lofty and airy, despite the alpaca. So that's the first one. And then I also have here Amy Slipover, which I was influenced by Inga from the Knitting Traditions podcast. I love watching the patterns that she picked and the yarns, because I also am based in Europe, so a lot of the things she talks about I could easily get either online or from a local store. So this is the Amy Slipover, which is in the pattern book Soft Knits for Women. And I knit this in the Fiberco Knightsbridge, which is sadly discontinued. So this is stash yarn. I bought it way back when for something and decided against knitting that original project I bought the yarn for, but it was in a weird quantity. I only had 300 grams of it, so I couldn't just pick any pattern I want, and I thought this is a good one because no sleeves are needed, and surely it shouldn't take that much yarn, right? Wrong. So I I had to reduce the length of the ribbing detail here. So it's supposed to go longer, I think 7 or 9 centimeters out, but I only knitted 5 because I knew I was gonna run out of yarn if I knitted it all the way. The other thing is the neckline. I didn't do the full turtleneck neckline, and it's also quite smaller than the original one. So in the original pattern, the shoulder stitch is way smaller than this. I think you only have 2, and I extended it by adding 10 stitches or so that the shoulder is wider, making the cowl that I need to knit smaller in circumference. And then instead of making it fold all the way, I just knit it until I run out of yarn and then fold it over itself for a double folded neck. So yeah, the yarn is very luxurious. It feels amazing on the hand, but I don't wear this quite so much, mainly because I don't know how to style this thing. Yeah, I'm a sweater and jeans type of girl, and this I feel like this requires some bit more fancy styling, maybe with like a large shirt underneath. I wore it once so far, and yeah, I felt like I was stepping out of my comfort zone, which might be a good thing. But yeah, so this is a challenge for me. I I plan to wear this more in the coming spring. Maybe with some like heat tech undershirt. Keep it simple, because I find the button up shirt underneath feels quite dressy and quite heavy. So maybe with something simpler, just like a long sleeve shirt, it would be more my style and easier to put together, possibly. Okay. And then I knit a weekender pullover by Andrea Mowry. I'm sure you've also heard about this pattern, seen it, or maybe knit one yourself. So this is I went off based on the original weekender pattern, which is knitted in a worsted weight. But here I was dying to use a stash yarn that I have, which is Lang Yarn's Donegal Tweed. And this yarn is super special, so it has a story. I got this from Fibershare, which unfortunately is not running anymore, but there is this program where you register and then the organizer will match you up based on your criteria, like what you like and your location and so on. Match you up with someone else who's gonna send yarn to you based on your preferences. And then based on your profile, I should say, not your preferences, based on your profile, because it's still up to them what they want to send you. So, and in turn, you're assigned a person you're supposed to send fiber to. So I find that was very special. I did this way back when. It's just a nice way to share the love of fiber to someone who also loves fiber. Sounds great, right? So, long story short, the person who got me as their giftee is so awesome. She sent me sweater quantities worth of this yarn and some sock yarn, some linen yarn, and also some goodies where she is from. And then somehow I never got around to knitting this because I was a bit intimidated by the texture. It's also it's quite an uneven yarn, if you can see. It's quite an uneven yarn with a lot of tweed effect, texture. It's a bit crumpled, sorry. So I wasn't sure how to knit it best. It's also single ply and it's uneven. It's uneven. And I let it set in my stash for 6 years, believe it or not. So I made a resolution. I'm just gonna pick something and I'm gonna knit with it. And then I knit the Weekender pullover before with a handspun yarn that I handspun. And I remember how it's such a great pattern for showing different ways the yarn would look like in different stitch patterns. So you have first the reverse stockinette, which is the main thing. And then you have the stockinette part, which is the sleeve. And then you have the ribbing for the cuff, the boat neck line, and then the hem, of course. So I thought that was perfect. The only thing is I had the pattern in the worsted gauge, so I had to do some recalculation so that I can knit it in the yarn that I chose. And I did. It turns out huge, but because the fabric is so light, it actually drapes quite nicely on the body. And then if you tuck the bottom of the sweater, it gives a nice proportion to the body for most of the pants that I own. So this gets worn a lot because it's just a simple, nice gray sweater, simple with a little bit of edge because of the texture and the different color splashes. So yeah, it's a really special project from 2024. Okay, next. In the summertime, I knitted a Ranunculus. So a Ranunculus summer key. And this project really started with the yarn. Last birthday, I was gifted some line from Sandnes Garn, which is a summer blend. I think it's cotton, viscose, and linen. And then I knitted something else with it 2 years ago, and I was in love with that tee, and I got to wear it a lot. And I thought, okay, I want another one in a different color. So I ordered some in pink, and just wanted something easy to knit, something I've knitted before. Yes, I've knitted a ranunculus before. This is my second one. And it did not disappoint. Really did not disappoint. I really liked this piece. It was so easy to throw on. And it's just a nice cooling, but also still has this nice drape to it. Yeah, so I love this. I wore it a lot when the weather is a bit warmer. The stitch pattern came out quite nicely in this yarn. I did some modification. I added some raglan increases after the main yoke portion because I did not knit this according to the original gauge of the pattern because I did not want such an open fabric. I still want it to be in the gauge that's recommended by the yarn. So by the time I finished the yoke, I hadn't met the right yoke depth yet for my size. So I added some raglan increases and a few more rows for the sleeves. And then twisted rib at the end and bind off as normal. So that was it. I had to redo this part a few times with the split for the sleeves and the body because that's just the nature of modifying patterns. There are some trial and errors involved, unless you do your recalculation before, like I did with the weekender. So that was a really easy project. No worries. I just get the new numbers and then did it as the number suggested. But for this one, it's more like made to measure type of thing. Really like this. Next, I knit the Shore Tee by Ventzel. This is knitted in Rowan Alpaca Merino DK. Also discontinued, unfortunately. Yeah, I do have quite some discontinued yarns. The reason is because I often shop for my yarn from someone's D-stash on my local, what do you call that? Local. There's this website where you post stuff you want to sell. So it's just like someone's D-stash, basically. And I tend to find really good deals there. So this was one of them. So I got 10 balls of this yarn for 30 euros, which is insane because Rowan is, they're kind of in the medium to high price range. So, and I really like their quality. So getting a sweater quantity for that price was like a jackpot. So I had to get it. It did take me some time to figure out what I want to knit with it because it's a chain net type of yarn. And I wasn't sure about the texture it was gonna give me. And in the end, I decided with some lace texture. I thought this was great. I knit the bracelet length sleeve. Yeah, it ended up being quite warm. I think this is more of a spring autumn garment though, not for the cold days. And the neckline is quite interesting. It's like it's not a boat neckline. It has this kind of funny shape. I don't know if I'm really into it, but it works for now. It's like a semi boat neck, but not really. I'll try to insert some pictures. And then that was also a nice and easy project. I just followed the pattern as is, and the stitch pattern is very, very, very easy. So it's something I could just pick up and work on whenever I have time. And it got done in not so long. I didn't encounter many issues with it. I did not get to wear this as often yet so far because I don't know why. Because of the neckline, I think. It's also quite feminine. Nowadays, I like to dress a little more relaxed and loose. And because of the eyelet lace pattern, this does feel quite a bit more feminine. So maybe this year. Okay, I have two more sweaters I want to share with you. This is the Salty Days pullover by Kutofakika or Veronika Lindberg. And this is actually the first project I bound off in 2024. because it's a carryover from, this was my main project during the Christmas break, and I finished it by the time I got home. And yeah, it's amazing. It's really cool. I really love the texture that it provides. It was also knitted in a much larger gauge than I thought it was based on the pattern photo. So I was quite happy to see that, yeah, with such a gauge, it knit up quite fast. I hold the yarn triple for this. I have bought this cone of Holzgarn Super Soft in the shade Brass during Black Friday a few years ago. So I have a cone of that, and I was waiting for the right project to wear this, to use this with, and I realized I have this alpaca wool silk blend from Lang Yarns called Zen that has quite a nice color match together. So I hold 2 of the Holzgarn Super Soft and 1 of the Zen. And this is the resulting fabric. As you can see, there are some color variations, a little bit of fuzz, but not much. I think most of the fuzz kind of flattened out or got incorporated into the stitch, which there's still a little bit of fuzz. I don't know if you can see. I find this very nice. My favorite part is this shoulder increases in the back with the eyelet. My favorite part is the shoulder increases in the back with the eyelet lace detail. It's really pretty. Yeah, I think this is one of my favorite sweater construction because of what you could do with that slanted line in the back. It's just kind of a little, yeah, a little wink wink to someone who sees you from the back. Because you can't really see it when you wear it. The only thing I don't fully love is this neckband here. The pattern asks you to knit it long and then tack it inside for a double folded neckband, but I find that to be way too heavy for this design because, yeah, it's just too bulky to me. So I plan to undo the double folded neckband, and maybe just make it a mock neck design instead of double folded. That might help. If not, I will rip back a bit and try to bound it maybe with. No, this is twisted. With twisted, I don't really like tubular cast off, so maybe I'll just bind it as normal. Although, the sleeves and the body does use tubular, so I might do that. First, I'll try the mock neck, and then if it doesn't work, I'll try crew neck. So I finished this while I was high in my second pregnancy. So it took a while until I could properly try this on. So I finished in January and I gave birth in March. So when I tried it on in January, it was completely off. It didn't look good because it didn't end up quite as oversized as I planned it to be. So it could accommodate my pregnant belly in the way that I like. So, but I decided to just put it aside and try again once my body resettles, so to speak. And then, yeah, I tried it on again last year, end of last year, winter, and I love it. It like the fit is so nice, just a little bit oversized, giving it that nice relaxed feel, and it is warm. The only thing I gotta pay attention to is the color of my undershirt when I wear this. White is a bit too much, so black is the better fit for me. Okay, the last sweater I want to show you is an Icelandic sweater, and this segues very nicely to children baby knits that I will show you later. But this is a pattern called Spegill from Loki number. I'll get the magazine real quick. So yeah, this pattern is from Loki number 42. I had to get this. I needed to do some looking around to find a copy in English that I could order online, but I did in the end because yeah, that's a story for another time. But the pattern comes from this book, but I think you can also buy it individually from Istex. This uses Istex Einband, which is a lace light fingering weight version of their yarn, and it's just so interesting. So I bought this yarn when we visited Iceland a few years ago. So so I really wanted to use it, but I was just always so intimidated by the weight because it is so thin. But this pattern is worked in an open gauge. So this actually uses 4.5 millimeter needles. The resulting fabric is quite see-through and the gauge is quite open. So you don't have to knit quite so much. So how it works is at the top, for the yoke, you use smaller size needles. And then once you split for the body and the sleeves, you increase so that the fabric gets even more see-through and even more light. And then, yeah, it's very interesting. I wouldn't have thought of knitting it in this kind of gauge, but it works. I mean, it works. Isn't this beautiful? Yeah, it's crazy. It's also warm, not the warmest, of course, given that type of yarn, but given the thinness of the yarn and the gauge, it's surprising how warm it actually is. Perfect for going to work, in my case. And I love it. I love it. I don't know what else to say. So also from Lopi book, I I wanted to knit my two kids something. It's kind of tricky knitting for kids because they grow out of the sweaters so quickly. So it's kind of, I did not want to make too much of them because I want each piece to be used enough amount of times for the material and the time that I took to make it to be worth it, so to speak. But I did know that I want to at least make one sweater for each kid. I have two kids, by the way, for each kid. And this just happens to be Icelandic yarn and pattern just is just the perfect fit for kids, in my opinion, or for my taste. So this is, I knit two of these. It's called, I don't know how to pronounce this word. It's called Tryggð or something like that. It's also from the Lopi pattern book. It's just a very classic two-colored Icelandic lohapeysa, Icelandic colorwork sweater. And this thing is so light, but it's so warm. When I put them in these and we go outside in the stroller, I just know they're not gonna freeze. It's, I love this so much. So this is for the older child in red and cream, as you can see. And then for the younger child, I just switch to the main color and knit the size below or two sizes below. This has been getting a lot of love. It's also because the yarn is so robust. Light but robust. It's crazy. I'm not very precious about it. They could wear it while they eat something. Even they once eat spaghetti bolognese with it. But because of the hairiness of the yarn, even if something falls off, it usually stays outside of the knit fabric that you can take off the dirt, and the sweater itself remains clean. Yeah. So light, so warm, so cute, and a partner look. Come on. Come on. Please. Yeah. So you'll see a theme. I'm a big fan of the Icelandic yarn and Icelandic sweater. I know Many people find it a bit too coarse to wear next to skin, but yeah, thankfully my children like them just as fine, because I think it keeps them warm, and that's what's important when you're going outside in the cold, right? And the last garment I want to show you is also bound off in the beginning of the year. It's a self-drafted sweater pattern with a bubble stitch. And what's special about this, other than it's self-drafted, so I'm quite proud of that, is that the yarn is hand-dyed by me and my husband. I had a phase of going through like experimentations with acid dyes, and then one night I just said, okay, I prepared the dye, why don't you pour it into the pot and then let's see what comes out of it. And that's this yarn. I had 200 grams of it, and because the colors are quite different, I alternated the skein, so you can actually see there's like a more turquoise part and like a more blue grayish part, but blended together they're quite nice. This also has been receiving a lot of love, as you can see. I find DK weight is just perfect for children's sweater. They don't drown in it, and it's thermoregulating enough that it suits a whole range of temperatures. Yeah, so that's all the garments that I have. Shall we move on to accessories? Yeah. Okay. Okay. The first thing is a pair of socks. Again, sorry, I wore my knits a lot, so they're not always in the most pristine condition to show you. Especially since this is the first time I'm trying to do anything like this, so the thought of keeping them pristine for showing does not occur to me at all. This is the Togetherness sock. It's a free pattern, a ribbing base, 3x2 ribbing with some nice simple cable twists incorporated. And it uses this heel flap and gusset construction, which is my favorite. It's the one that fits the best for my feet. And just very, very nice. I wear this a lot at home. I wore it in my boots, wore it to go outside, all the things. And it's still holding well. And I got this yarn at the grocery store. Yeah, it was amazing. Our grocery store has weekly special offers that they don't always carry, and usually there's a theme like sport or plants or handicrafts. And at this week they have wool. This is like 75% wool and 25% nylon for a really good price. I don't remember anymore how much it costs, but I had to get it and I had to knit with it because the point of buying it is also knitting it. And then I also ventured into hot water bottle cover. This is using a boucle yarn that I actually bought for the purpose of coarse spinning. But I bought a whole cone of it, and I don't use actually that much when I coarse spin. I don't coarse spin that much. So I thought, why not hold it triple and see what kind of texture comes out of it, because I've been seeing this very fluffy type of hot water bottle cover, and I use the free pattern on Ravelry just to get an idea how to start off. But in the end, I just cast on, and I had to check then whether this fits my water bottle because I didn't swatch for this. So then I increase until it's wide enough, and then so on and so forth. It's quite straightforward, really. Sadly, I don't use this enough because I don't know, I feel like it's not that warm. And how warm does your water have to be? It says not to fill in boiled water. So I try to use the hottest water from my tap. but it's not warm enough. I don't know if it's the fault of the wool, because this is not really wool, it's alpaca and there's some nylon in it. So it could be that the fabric does not transmit as much warmth as if it's wool. So I think I'm gonna try knitting another cover in 100% wool and see if it's the knitting that makes a difference, or if I simply need to use hotter water to make it really warm. 2024 is also the year I finally knit a pair of gloves. Looky. All 10 fingers accounted for. So this is a very well loved pair of gloves, which was knit out of necessities. I ride my bike to work, and in the autumn, my fingerless gloves still do the job right. So my fingerless glove kept me warm enough because I could just bunch my hand here and it goes a little bit past my knuckles. But come winter, no. My hand froze and it felt like my fingers was falling off, so I knew I needed proper gloves. And as a knitter, I refused to buy one, of course. I thought I could make it with some yarns from my stash, it'll be fun, try something new, and I did. I'm quite proud of this one. The pattern is Pioneer Gloves on Ravelry. It's free. Do give it a try. The designer messaged me and she was so nice, such a lovely lady, and I can't recommend this enough. It's written in a really approachable way, and this is knitted in worsted weight, so it knit up quite fast. Even the little like gap that you need to close up, it's not annoying because you can see it quite clearly. And even though there are 10 fingers, but each finger took only less than 10-15 minutes, I don't know, especially if you add like contrasting fingertip colors like I did. It's really quite fun to see it take shape. And this is knitted in Istex Let Lopi from Stash yarn that I have. I really adore this yarn. And lastly, last item. Lastly, I have the Musselburgh hat by Ysolda Teague. This is another skein that I got from the Fiber Share box from my Fiber Share buddy, who has been so kind and generous. This yarn is by Night Creation Supernova, and I believe this is naturally dyed. Yeah. I don't know if you can still get it because, as I said, I got it as a gift 6 years ago. So it's a really, really nice yarn. And I love this resulting hat. When it first came off the needles, it was too small, sadly, believe it or not. And I didn't wear it for quite some time. But come winter, everything got gray and sad, and I just knew I needed some pop of color in my accessories. So I reached for this, and wearing it really does help. Stretching it a little bit so that it fits my head a bit better. And it is super warm. I love it. I love wearing this. And I love that it's a special. I love that I used up most of the yarns that this person sent me, because that's what it's supposed to be used for, right? To keep me warm. So it was quite satisfying. Now I only have the linen yarn left, and maybe this year I find out what I do with it. All right. Those are some things, not all, but some things I knitted in 2024. It was a year of the resurgence of the knitting mojo for me, certainly. I've been knitting for 7 or 8 years now, so I've had my ups and downs with knitting, but now it's at a high since a year plus. And I hope it continues to be that way. I hope I get to keep more people that I love in my life warm, because I did also gifted quite some knitted pieces to my husband, to my nephews, and my mom, and I hope I get to do that more this year too. And if you like what you see, if some of these things inspire you, then that makes me very, very happy. I hope we can chat a bit more about knitting or other yarny pursuits in the future. What do you say? So thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for letting me talk your ear off. This has been great. And maybe I see you again. Bye. Tschüss.